Moscow, Idaho was the kind of place where people left their doors unlocked and waved to neighbors. Surrounded by rolling hills and peaceful roads, it felt far from the chaos of the outside world. But everything changed in the summer of 1981. Kristin David, a bright and kind college student at the University of Idaho, went missing, and nothing would ever feel safe again. Kristin was well known in the community. She was focused on her studies, loved riding her bicycle, and dreamed of a future in law. On June 26, 1981, she left her job at the Moscow law office to ride her bike to her hometown of Lewiston, about 30 miles away. It was a path she had taken before, along the open stretch of Highway 95. But this time, she never made it. When Kristin didn't arrive, concern quickly turned to fear. Friends, family, and law enforcement began searching. People who once felt safe walking alone now kept their children close. In just one day, Moscow transformed from a quiet college town into the center of a terrifying mystery. A storm had come, and it left the whole community shaken. Kristin's last ride on the morning of June 26, 1981, Kristin David climbed onto her bicycle with a clear goal: reach her family in Lewiston before evening. The sun was out, and she carried her backpack filled with essentials. Wearing a yellow shirt and shorts, she looked like any other young woman enjoying a summer ride. But this would be the last time anyone saw her alive. Kristin was athletic and confident, used to long-distance biking. The 30-mile route along Highway 95 didn't scare her. It was a road she knew well, a direct path cutting through scenic farmland and patches of forest. But hidden behind the beauty was danger. Somewhere along that quiet highway, something went terribly wrong. A few witnesses later reported seeing Kristin pedaling south, smiling, focused. Then, nothing. No crash, no phone call, no cries for help. She simply vanished. As hours passed, concern turned into alarm. Calls were made, roads were checked, but no sign of Kristin or her bike was found that day. Her last ride had begun with promise and ended in silence. It marked the start of a mystery that would haunt Idaho for decades. A simple bike ride had turned into a nightmare. The bike on Highway 95. 2 days after Kristin David disappeared, a breakthrough came. But it only deepened the mystery. A passing driver noticed something strange near the shoulder of Highway 95, not far from the town of Genesee. It was a bicycle, lying in the grass, abandoned. It matched the description of Kristin's, blue with silver trim. Nearby, search teams found pieces of her belongings scattered across the roadside. Her torn backpack, personal items, and some school papers fluttered in the wind. It was clear now, something terrible had happened here. This was no simple case of getting lost or a bike accident. The scene hinted at violence. Investigators carefully collected the items. Each object was a painful reminder of the bright life that had suddenly gone dark. But no blood, no signs of struggle, and no witnesses. Just an empty highway and a chilling silence. The bike, once a symbol of Kristin's independence and freedom, had become evidence. It stood alone on that long, lonely stretch of road, as if waiting for answers that never came. And for the people of Idaho, it was the moment the horror became real. Something, or someone, had taken Kristin David and left her story scattered on the roadside. A chilling discovery on July 4, 1981, just over a week after Kristin vanished. Two fishermen made a horrifying discovery along the banks of the Snake River, near Clarkston, Washington. Wrapped in black plastic bags were human remains. Investigators were called immediately, and dread filled the air as they confirmed the worst. Inside the bags were body parts, later identified as belonging to Kristin David. The condition of the remains shocked even seasoned officers. Someone had gone to great lengths to hide the crime, cutting and packing her body in an attempt to erase all trace of what had happened. The peaceful river that once brought life to nearby towns now held a dark secret. For Kristin's family and the people of Idaho, the nightmare had turned into tragedy. This wasn't just a disappearance anymore. It was a brutal murder. And the killer was still out there. The search begins. With the discovery of Kristin David's remains, the case shifted from a missing person to a murder investigation. Law enforcement from Idaho and Washington joined forces, determined to find out who had done this and why. The FBI was brought in, and roadblocks were set up along Highway 95, hoping someone had seen something, anything. Flyers with Kristin's photo were posted across towns. Detectives knocked on doors, questioned locals, and retraced her final steps. They spoke to people who had seen her riding that day, but no solid leads emerged. The killer had vanished without a trace. Search teams scoured the riverbanks for more evidence. Divers were sent into the Snake River. Every clue was examined, every rumor chased. But days turned to weeks, and still, no suspects, no motive. Despite the growing fear and frustration, investigators refused to give up. The search for justice had begun, and they knew that somewhere, the truth was waiting to be found. Clues without answers. As investigators dug deeper, they gathered pieces of evidence, but none brought them closer to solving Kristin David's murder. The plastic bags found in the river were traced to a common brand, sold across the country. No fingerprints, no DNA, and no murder weapon were recovered. It was as if the killer had planned every detail to leave no trail. Kristin's belongings, her torn backpack, scattered papers, and bike, were studied carefully, but they gave no clear direction. Witnesses remembered seeing her on the highway, but no one saw what happened next. No vehicles reported following her, no screams, no struggle, just silence. Years passed, and tips slowly faded. The case grew cold, despite efforts to keep it alive. Investigators held onto the hope that someday, one missing piece would connect it all. For Kristin's family and the community, the lack of answers was its own kind of torture. The clues were there, but the truth remained hidden, locked away in the shadows of Highway 95. The town in fear. Kristin David's murder sent a wave of fear through the quiet towns of Idaho and nearby Washington. People who once felt safe riding bikes, walking alone, or enjoying open roads suddenly changed their routines. Parents kept their children close. Women no longer traveled alone. A deep sense of unease settled over the region. For years, Moscow had been a peaceful college town where danger felt distant. But now, the streets felt colder. Even strangers were looked at with suspicion. No one knew who had done this, or if they were still nearby. Was it someone local? A traveler passing through? The questions only grew darker. The idea that a young woman could vanish in broad daylight and be found brutally murdered was more than just tragic. It was terrifying. The case wasn't just a mystery anymore. It was a warning, a reminder that evil could exist anywhere, even in the safest places. Kristin's story changed the community forever. It broke their sense of safety and turned an ordinary highway into a haunting symbol of unanswered questions. Trust was shaken, and fear had moved in to stay. Theories and suspects. As the investigation dragged on, many theories emerged, but none brought closure. Some believed Kristin David was targeted by a stranger, possibly a serial killer traveling through the area. Others thought it might have been someone she knew, someone who had followed her or learned her routine. But without hard evidence, these remained just theories. Several suspects were questioned over the years, but none were ever charged. One man, known for violent behavior and living near the area at the time, was investigated closely, but no proof linked him to the crime. Another suspect was tied to similar cases in the region, but again, nothing solid. Authorities also explored whether Kristin's murder could be connected to other unsolved disappearances in nearby towns, including the Lewiston Civic Theater case. The idea of a serial predator haunting the area haunted the public imagination, yet nothing could be proven. Each theory led to more questions. Every suspect brought hope and disappointment. The truth remained just out of reach, and Kristin's killer stayed hidden in the shadows, leaving a trail of broken hearts and unanswered prayers. Justice still waiting. Decades have passed since Kristin David's life was taken, but her case remains unsolved. The files are still open, the evidence still preserved, and her name still remembered. Law enforcement continues to revisit the case, hoping that new technology or a long-held secret will finally bring justice. Advances in DNA testing have solved many cold cases, and Kristin's family prays hers will be one of them. Each year, her case is reviewed. Each tip, no matter how small, is investigated. But so far, no one has been held accountable. Kristin's family has never stopped fighting for answers. They've kept her memory alive through interviews, awareness campaigns, and cooperation with detectives. What they want isn't revenge, it's peace. Closure, a name, a reason. For the people of Idaho and beyond, Kristin's story is more than a tragedy. It's a reminder that justice doesn't always come quickly, but it is never forgotten. Somewhere out there, someone knows what happened on that stretch of Highway 95. And until that truth is revealed, Kristin David's story will remain one of heartbreak, hope, and justice still waiting.